Conspiracy culture. Right now, I wanted to talk about the New World Order, the elite, and our history and stuff. So let's begin by talking about the New World Order. You know, this has been kind of mentioned a lot in maybe perhaps some movies, cartoons, whatever, right? What does the New World Order really mean for, right? It means a type of a new system of government, I would presume, a new leader, a new nation that kind of runs things, right? Because if you go look through the Middle Ages, right? The centers of control were, I would kind of presume it would be like the Middle East, it used to be the Middle East, I presume, right? The Middle East used to be like a center of control, a region which influenced geopolitics a lot, right? And then what happened was, following after, during the end of the Middle Ages, right, the Middle East started to become more and more irrelevant, so to speak, right? New technologies were getting developed in Europe, right? The Industrial Revolution and stuff like that was happening in England and stuff. All of this kind of took all of the importance away from the Middle East, and it kind of made Europe really the center of the world now, right? For industry, for new technology getting developed, for culture, for politics, for everything. Europe was starting to become more of the leader of the world, and the Middle East just became kind of irrelevant, right? Even now it's just completely forgotten about, right? No one really, aside from because, obviously there's consequences and stuff because of the way geopolitics works, you kind of have to consider some of the Middle Eastern countries and stuff, but really no one really cares about these countries from the Western world, right? In terms of what they have to offer and stuff. Maybe perhaps aside for religious value, because I know Israel and Arabia, Saudi Arabia contains some religious sites that are very important in the Abrahamic faiths, but besides that, the Middle East has literally nothing to offer. Right? It's become completely irrelevant. It's not leading the world in anything. All right, Europe is, right? Europe's leading the world, so to speak, and its offshoot America and Australia and New Zealand, all of these other European countries that were conquered by Europeans and established by them and stuff like that. They're leading the world, right? Not the Middle East, right? So when you say New World Order, really what you're saying is who's going to run things now, right? And again, as I've explained, right, after the Middle Ages, right, really Europe was running things now, right? Arabs just became completely incompetent. They became irrelevant, right? They still are, right? Europe, the West, is kind of running things now, right? Specifically America, because America was essentially the New World Order, right? America is kind of like the second Rome, so to speak. It influences the world the most, right? Out of any other country. It has a strong military that can be sent to any place of the world and kind of used for more control and influence and stuff like that. America is kind of, if you can see the world as some type of, it's kind of hard to create a perfect analogy, but some type of, I don't know, pyramid scheme, hierarchy, whatever. America would be kind of at the top, giving all the commands and orders and stuff, just because of its massive infrastructure and power and stuff. Also because of the way it's kind of laid out politically and stuff. Because America is it's huge, right? It is the New World Order. That's what it was about, right? If you the founding fathers, a lot of their philosophy was about trying to bring in a new way of running things, a new world leader, a new player in the game of geopolitics. That was America. America was the New World Order. It was the new leader of the world, so to speak, right? Of course, Europe was kind of starting to, but then again, America really is Europe, right? It's just the same people, same similar culture, right? They were just an offshoot of Europe and stuff like that, and that's, so it's kind of stupid, the way people separate America from Europe. But really, America is Europe, right? it's become more unique from isolation, but it still has the same origin and roots and types of people and stuff like that. But kind of regardless, this new world order, it was when America was born. America was starting to lead the world. China became more and more irrelevant, right? And the Middle East was kind of becoming even more irrelevant. It still is irrelevant, right? Africa's not even worth considering, right? Before the Industrial Revolution started in England, like, the Middle East and China were in control. They were running things. They were determining geopolitics the most, right? But then following the Middle Ages until after the Industrial Revolution, right? Then Europe started to kind of get itself more and more established, made itself more and more influential, right? New technologies were emerging from Europe, right? And that kind of led the way for a type of new world order, right? Where Europe started to become the center of the world. And then, Europe started to create colonies in the Americas, right? Literally America, right? And all the South American countries, the Latin American countries, and those countries, whatever. Because they're also kind of an offshoot of Europe. Like, Spanish, Portuguese, these are European languages, right? The Aztecs weren't speaking these languages, right? Mexicans have kind of been conquered, right? Their native culture's been kind of erased. Same with like the Incas and the other indigenous people of the Americas. Their cultures have been kind of washed away by the European colonists and stuff. But again, regardless, it's kind of bringing back the new world order. Europe became leader of the world, right? And then passed the torch, so to speak, to America. And now America is kind of like the like in terms of like, let's just kind of see it as like a person, right? He's like running the world, right? He's giving all the commands and orders and stuff. China's starting to get itself more and more up there, so to speak, right? So it's trying to take back some of the control and stuff. The Middle East is just kind of irrelevant. It's just a dung pad, right? Aside from some few religious places that have some significance, right? But other than that, there is just completely irrelevant. Nobody really cares about what the Middle East has to offer, right? Because, nothing gets produced there for some reason. China as well. Of course, China is still keeping up, attempting to take back control, right? To create a new world order in its own way. But to kind of summarize all of this, right? America was the new world order, right? It took control away from Europe, even though really it's an extension of Europe, but it kind of just, it became the entity that kind of ran things, right? Took control of the world, and now its influence is everywhere and stuff, and you can feel it. But to kind of move past America and the new world order and stuff, I want to kind of really discuss like who are the elite, who is in control of this world, like not just in terms of not just in terms of countries and nations, but like which specific individuals are running this world and pulling the strings of us all. You got like Rockefeller, who else? Like a couple of those other rich families, Bilderbergs. There's some other families that can't really remember properly. You got the Rockefellers, you got the Bilderbergs, countless other rich families, right? They have a lot of influence in the economic world, but then you wonder like how much political control do they have of whatever. It's kind of hard to speculate and to kind of confirm what their influence is like and stuff. The elite. Of course, you don't want people to talk about the Illuminati, this hidden oligarchy that's behind everything, right? These are just kind of like titles and useless labels. Like no one really knows who's in charge of the world, right? No one knows who really controls the world, right? It's kind of bizarre. There's a deeper, like especially, I want to kind of just, because, in America, there's a deep state, so to speak. There's like a government inside of a government that really controls everything, right? But that's kind of, and it's not just America, it's also in Europe and other places of the world. There's like a more inner core to any type of order, to any type of organization, and it's kind of hard to figure out who's exactly in control. But these rich families, again, Rockefeller, Bilderbergs, whatever, any other type of rich family, aside from economic power, right? Do they have political power? Probably not. But then again, you can kind of argue, well, because of the fact that they have economic power. They can buy their way into politics, so to speak, and influence the world. But in my opinion, they're kind of not really that important, so to speak. I don't see them as like some type of threat. All they have is their wealth, and that's about it. And, they can't buy our opinions. They can't force us to believe in what they have to offer. And of course, they can control the media and stuff and pay for like propaganda to spread, and that can kind of influence our minds. So maybe they do have more influence than I want to kind of admit. But I mean, yeah, political, like the real elite, the small group of people that are pulling the strings of mankind, is it's hard to narrow down who they would be, right? You can kind of think about the various, again, rich families, right? Like the Bilderbergs, Rockefellers, countless other rich families. You can think about like some U.S. presidents and stuff, and political figures and stuff like that. But who would really be running the world? And of course, it might actually be just me being stupid. Like maybe there is no one person or specific group of people running the world. Maybe it's just kind of chaos, and different political factions are just attempting to do what they can to kind of shape the world in their own way and stuff. Maybe that's kind of what's correct. Maybe there is no one specific group or person or individual and stuff. And that I feel like that could probably be true and stuff. Just kind of move on to just to kind of think about our history now, right? We used to be just the basic hunter-gatherers, right? And then we started to get involved in agriculture, and then we started to build nations and empires, and and that's been kind of a lot of our history. And now we're in an industrial society with like a lot of advanced technology, light bulbs, electricity. What I'm talking about, computers and stuff. Mm-hmm. Our history, right? It's quite long, convoluted and stuff, but it's also heavily filtered and propagandized. I don't believe we actually know everything about our past. I believe we only know like a small amount of what's been passed down and let out by the elite or the oligarchy or our various controllers, people in control that take and give us what they want. Yeah, our history, following the Industrial Revolution, there was a massive change across the entire world. We were kind of moving away from feudalism and stuff like that, this kind of archaic social order where a king rules over like dozens and dozens of potentially an entire large colony of humans, right? We were moving away from that, right? We were moving more towards, democracy, which is kind of, again, it's not really that different from feudalism, or from monarchies or from dictatorships, right? Democracy is just essentially mob rule, right? Instead of like one person determining what's going to happen, the mob does that, right? Like a group of people start to kind of, the largest group of people get to determine how society is run. And, you can say, well, this kind of checks and balances everything, right? One person, he might have some bad ideas, but, a group of people, they can kind of check and balance each other. And, that could be potentially true. But this group, a group of people can also decide to, commit a bunch of indecent things. A group of people, right? They might have the wrong ideas, and they might all believe in this wrong idea, and they can kind of make society worse and stuff like that. And so you can see how democracy is a little bit flawed and stuff. It's not really all that better than monarchies, and or I guess you could argue that it is because checks and balances and stuff. But kind of moving past this, right? The Industrial Revolution, following that, the entire world was massively changing and stuff. We were kind of moving past a lot of our archaic ways of being, right? The religion was kind of becoming less and less, it became less and less serious, right? It was starting to be seen more and more as a joke. Science was kind of emerging, right? There was this massive rationalist movement, right, that was kind of taking control of Europe, and then, from Europe, it kind of spread to the rest of the world. And, and that's kind of, you can feel like a massive change. Of course, after the Industrial Revolution, a lot of other things were happening, right, and changing. I believe the West was kind of becoming more and more secure. It was securing itself more as a leader of the world, right? And, in the East, China and the Middle East, Arabia, Iran, all those countries in the Middle East and stuff, they were just becoming kind of irrelevant. And, of all, China's kind of starting to pick itself back up. And now, here we are in our modern world, but, a lot of things are going to change probably again sometime in the future. This is going to be kind of interesting to see what happens and stuff.